Identity access management is a security service. It's a security service which is provided by the AWS. Okay. So which these security services will assist us for safeguarding the sensitive data and information while meeting the compliance and confidentiality standards. So every company will be having a compliance and a confidentiality standards. So it has to secure its data. Okay, it's personal data or a public data which is being collected. In this scenario, security and protection, all this making a high priority role because now the digital center or a heart of the any business is nothing but the data and application code it is having. So for a gold shop, the total gold is worth its value. Total gold in the shop is its business value. And if it is a software company or a data analysis company, not normal infrastructure is the value. Its don't actual value is its data. If it stores the data very well, then it can uh, or it stores the software very well. It if it secures it from the cyber attacks, breaching, or any attacks, then and it gives the data to only authorized people, not the everyone. Then the company is very much successful. So security plays very important role. There are plenty of tools which are used in AWS other than the IAM, like Guard Duty is there, Config is there, Massey is there, Cloud Trail is there. So there are plenty of applications like Guard Duty and Massey. There are plenty of applications which secures our data. Among them, IAM, Identity Access Management, is the top prior thing which we have to learn. So this security or IAMs create a policies based on the policy. Policy defines tells what type of security we are providing. So here AWS security services assist us in safeguarding the sensitive data information, and it enables us to automate tedious security processes so we can concentrate on growing and innovating the company. So if you normally if you say data is not secured, all our team is in that securing and maintaining the firewalls and everything. That will be tedious for that is a headache for us. So in that scenario, if we use the AWS or any cloud service provider security services, then we will be very happy, right? So for what we have to manage, we have to manage our websites. We have to manage our development testing, developer code and testing code, and we have to manage our internal enterprise applications. We have to manage our Redshift AMR analytics. We have to manage our data. For that, normally many people has to work, like project teams, business units, and reporting, marketing. All this combinedly, whenever they want to access these things, our organization, our external people want to access these things. Everyone is having their own access authorization. Everyone cannot access everything. Like the project manager, one project manager cannot access the project details of the another project, right? So every individual entity or a data unit or a model can be given access to some only, not all. That is also at different levels. So that all rules and everything is measured or can be given by the AWS security services. So there are plenty of tools which provide this uh, services. The other than IAM is Guard Duty, Massey, and Config and CloudTrail. Okay, so this identity, this is the basic thing. IAM is basic, compulsorily we have to use. Okay, and these are the other are used in different scenarios. Mostly we use the IAM. Okay, others are used in different scenarios. So identity access management safeguards the accesses to AWS services and resources to create and manage the AWS user and groups and uses the permission to grant or deny the access to AWS services. Say we have different roles. Okay, what the IAM will do for a different group of people. Okay, so this is administrator role for the development. This is the administrator for the stage. So these are the IAM users. These are having the, as an IAM user, they are having the different access and permissions on the development developed project. And when it is in the stage, it can be only accessed by the staging for the administrator role who are having the staging permission on the staging permission, right? So the main benefits of the IAM are, so this what the IAM will do for a particular object, that may be a data or a website or a service. For that, whenever it creates a user or policies, user policies. So if it is creating a administrative role for development, then it will create a role, and that role can be assigned to anyone. Then whatever permissions are given to that role, that will be applied to that particular person. Say I'm a new user, like I'm a new user to the AWS, and uh, I may be given with different roles. One may be administrative role to the development. One may be only viewer to some data. I cannot update. Some may be an editor to some S3 service or a bucket. Okay, some for a bucket I can only view. For a bucket I can update. So those roles can be given. So I may have multiple roles. Okay, so and another some X person also also has a AWS account. He's also person from the company. So on a project, we want to give an administration role. So we'll same role can be applied to that person also. Like whenever some things can be, some operations are to be performed on a particular object. That may be bucket, that may be a service, that may be an EC2, or whenever we want a particular permissions to be given on any of these things, we'll simply create a role and we'll assign that role to the particular person. So advantage of the IAM, mainly we can control over the data storage, we can fine grain the identity, okay, and we can do the continuous monitoring for the real-time security information also. Okay, we can build the most secure global infrastructure using the IAM, and it has the ability to encrypt the data with 256 any size of the key which we give. Okay, and it is having the reduced human config errors, and wide variety of deeply integrated solutions are also there in this IAM service. This is a service, right? Whatever services we give in the used in the AWS, that we call a service. So when we are working with the IAMs, there are when we are creating a policy, or when we are creating any permissions to any resources, there are few things we need to understand. First one is the principal. Principal means who, to whom we want to give, which type of family. Then authentication. Then what is the request? Then we'll check the authorization. Okay. So authentication will verify who the person is. Authorization will verify what are the permissions he is having on the particular resource. So I'm working as a project manager. Some other X may be working as a developer. Both we can go to the office, showing our authentication. I can show my authentication as a project manager. The developer may show the authentication as a developer. We can both go into the inside of the office. But I'm authorized to directly meet or access the files of the chairman or a CEO. but developer is only has the authorization on his code only, on his project only. That is also only on the module which is given assigned to him. Say he is assigned to write some code on the analysis of the cloud traffic. Then only on that cloud traffic he has the access. The details will be given to him. He cannot access every detail. As a project manager, I'm authorized to view everything, right? So I'm authorized. The authorization refers to the what are the permissions, what level of permissions we have in any resource. Authentication will give will identify whether who we are. Okay, then authorization also specifies what action we can take and on what resources. These are the five elements which are one after the other, which are configured when you're writing an IAM policy. Policy is a definition or a document which specifies the permissions. So principal is an action on a AWS resource which can be performed by a principal. So it is nothing but any user or a role who can do that. Okay. And authentication, it is a process of confirming the identity of this particular principal. So whenever we are writing an IAM policy or a rule, okay, we'll write like this. We'll write, first we'll specify who, what is the role, and then we'll specify what is the authentication. It is a process of confirming the identity of the principal trying to access the AWS product. Okay, to authenticate from the console, we must provide he must provide his credential to require. Then, what is the request to access? Is it an API or it is a S3 bucket? So he sends what request he can send. Okay, that is specified by the specifier in the request. Then authorization. So here, IAM uses the information from this authorizations and it will check whether that request can be handled for the particular user or not. It will check for the matching the policies and determine whether to allow or deny the request. So whenever an authorized person, so whenever a user comes and asks, try to use the resource, first his authentication is checked. Then once the authentication is checked, then what is the request he is giving, that will be checked. If that is also, then after the request is considered, then it will check this request, is it authorized to the particular principal? That is checked. Okay, then after authentication and authorization of the request, AWS approves the action. So actions can be taken, and using this, we can edit or delete or create on any resource. So a set of actions can be performed in a related resource of AWS account. So here, whenever an S3 bucket is having some data, the bucket is, I'm trying to open that bucket. That data I'm trying to open. First, what is the principal? I'm the person, I'm the account holder who is trying to open, or a role which is trying to open the S3 bucket. Then it will go to the authentication. Authentication will check whether this person is authorized or not. First, it will check. Then, what is the request I am giving? I am trying to open the bucket. Then, that request is checked. Then, what is the permissions I have? That authorization is checked. It will check. And what are the actions I want to do? Whether I want to open or read, write or delete, that actions are performed. Once everything is done, that actions will be performed on that resource, that S3 bucket or anything. So this is how it works. So, okay, IAM do that, but where exactly it gets that information? Where exactly it will get? whether who is authorized on a particular bucket or who is authorized on a particular who's having the authentication, who is having the authorization, where all the details will be specified in a policy, a IAM policy, which will be attached to the that particular resource. Say it is S3 bucket, then for that particular for that particular resource, and policy will be attached, which will be securing anyone to perform the operation. The IAM will check that policy, then only it will perform allow the for the use of that action. Then coming to the groups, when we create a user, we can also create a user group, right? So for the developers having some set of permissions and some security people having the some set of permissions, then we can create a developer group and we can create a security group, okay, based on that permissions. So AWS identity and access management, users are AWS entities that represent the person or application that interacts with the AWS. So when I'm talking in terms of the AWS user, it's not only specific to the human. It can be any other application which is trying to access some other, say some EC2 want to use an S3 bucket. The web application which is stored in the EC2 wants, or any Docker wants to use the content in the S3, then it is called as a user. Okay. So in IAM, users are AWS entities that represent the person or application that interacts with the AWS. And AWS users have a name and credentials. It may be friendly name, okay, which is the name you gave them while they're formed. And the root user of an AWS second is not the same as IAM user with administration access. So when you're opening the console, normally you will be getting an option for 1 minute. Okay, so AWS users have a name and credentials, and so the root user of an AWS account is not same as an IAM user with administrative access. Root user is the main creator of the total account, right? Is different from anyone with whom the king, this creator makes as a king. So root user is a creator of the account. Okay, he's main owner of the account, and if he makes anyone as a king to operate, then this king is not as equivalent to the creator. The same manner, the root user of the AWS account is not the same as an IAM user with administrative access. Okay, then the other components of the role, like we talked about users. Now we'll talk about roles. In IAM role, like IAM user, it's an AWS identity with permission policies that govern what the identity can do and cannot do. That's when we are creating a role, administrator role, okay, or a viewer role, or some role. We give some any name. The role it's like a user, but role is not an individual person. It can be, it's a, we call a role like as a job. Like I'm a developer. This developer job role can be given to hundreds of people. I'm a cloud engineer. The cloud engineer is a role which can be given to the hundreds of people, right? So it's like an identity with permission policies that govern what the identity can do or cannot do in the AWS. So whenever we are creating a role in terms of the IAM, only we'll specify what permissions it is having, what permissions it is not having. Okay, so there are no long-term credentials connected with the role. Instead, when you take a role, you're given a temporary security credential for the duration of your role session. So whenever a role is given to you, it is not permanent. You are permanent, right? The role can be changed. You can be applied. You can be given another role, or a role can be deleted from you, and like that. The role is cannot be given permanently to any person. That's otherwise we can directly give the permission to that person, right? So whenever we are creating a role, that can role can be given to many number of people. Whenever a role is given to a particular person, the particular person so role may be temporary. It's not permanent. The role can be changed at any time. Okay, so users, applications, and said that don't ordinarily have the access to the AWS resources can be given access through these roles. Okay, so based on the role, we can assign a role, and the role can be given to any person. So what we'll do, we'll create a role. Okay, we create a role. To this role, what are the permissions he is having? We'll write in terms of the IAM policies, and this role. This policy, what it will do, this policy will tell what permissions he is having, which permissions he is not having. And this role can be assigned to any user or any application or any instance. Okay, policies, coming to the policies. So we have discussed about users, roles, then we are discussing about policies. Policies are created and linked to IAM identities like users, groups of users, and roles, or AWS resources to manage access in AWS. So you can see this is the policy of administrative access. This is the policy of power user access. This is the policy of private rail read on access. So these policies can be given to groups, can be given to user, can be given to an application, can be given to role of third party, can be given to individual users also, right? So how do we create a policy? In the IAM, you should go to the first IAM, then go to the policies, then you can type, we can specify the type of the policy you are writing. Or you can directly, by clicking on create policy also, you can go and click create a policy. Then when you select the any type like AWS manager or a job function or anything, it will give a predefined policy. Okay, so when it is selected, it will give some predefined policies. So this policy will tell us what actions can be performed, which options cannot be performed on particular object. Here, this Amazon S3 full access is a policy name which specifies that we affect is allow, action is on S3 star, any S3, and or object S3 object lambda. Okay, resource is star. That means anyone, right? So like that, the policy will be in these curly braces is the key and value pairs, which specifies what actions cannot be performed, what actions can be performed, and what objects and by whom is specified in this policy. Okay. So coming to the roles, we'll go to the roles, and we can create a new role, or we can use the existing roles which are normally given by the this AWS. So we can create a role. When we are creating a role, it will ask us what is the use case, and it will suggest us few things like, do you want to allow EC2 instance to call AWS services on your behalf? Like that, it will ask. Then it will give us few use cases. Then we can select on what service, what type of service we want to create a role. Then we'll give a role name, and we'll give the description, and we'll attach a policy to it, to that particular role. Okay, and we'll click on create role in downwards. Okay, so what we'll do, we'll give a new role name, and we'll give the policy which specifies what is the action to be performed on a particular object or not can be performed on a particular object. Okay, so that's how we do. So whenever a role is created, so you can see this role is uh, when we are configuring the instances. Okay, we can also give the role also, right? Like that, we have till now we have discussed what is an IAM. It's a service, right? And what is the benefits? What are the benefits of an IAM, and what how it works? First, it will check who are whenever a person wants to access any resource or update or delete or perform operation on, then a principal, whether what is the who is that user? Is it an application or a user or any entity? That will be checked. Then its authentication is checked. Then what are the permissions he is having? That will be checked. Then what is the request he is giving? That will be checked. Then the authorization, what are the permissions the particular authenticated principal is having? That is checked. Then actions are performed. That's how an IAM works, right? So that we discussed. Then we have discussed about IAM groups. Then we have discussed about IAM users. Users means they are not individuals. They are, that may be an application, that may be an person or an application which is trying to access the resources. Then we discussed about the roles. Role is a based on the permissions and action to be performed, we will create a role. Like a developer is a role, a cloud engineer is a role. In the same manner, based on project manager is a role. Like that, we'll be creating a role and we'll specify what are the permissions he's having, what he can do or he cannot do in the particular AWS resources. That will be specified with the policy, and we'll assign that policy to that particular role. And we have also discussed about the policies. Policies is a script where it will be written in terms of the key and values. It is a document which contains the details of what actions can be performed, what actions cannot be performed on a particular objects, resources, and by whom it can be performed and by whom it cannot be performed. That all the script can be written using the policy. Then we have seen some screenshots how it can be created. It is the example of a policy. Then the roles, and while creating, we have to select the role type use cases. Then we'll create a role and description, and we'll assign the policy. You can see Amazon S3 access, which we shown in the previous, that we are attaching to this particular role. And we also discussed about how they can the roles can be assigned to any instances. So features of IAM are it's having the shared access to your AWS account, and it has the granular permissions, uh, and it secures access to the AWS resources, and it also provides us multi-factor authentication. Multi-factor authentication is very important, right? Then identity federation, and it's free up, some are free to use, and it has a PC and DSS compliance, and it has a password policy also. These are the different. So this is about the IAM. Okay. So Lambda is a service where we can write programs without storing it. Okay. So in order to store anything or there, simply you can write something or there. It is a stateless. Stateful means we are storing our backend program in somewhere in some location. But here, while we are using the functions, writing the functions in a Lambda service, it is a stateless. Okay. So first, we'll be discussing what is AWS Lambda, why is Lambda useful, and disadvantages. Who uses the Lambda? So, coming to the 2000, traditional companies is having their own specific data centers. Then mid to late 2000s, early cloud infrastructure EC2 came. Then from the 2014, enhanced cloud infrastructure came into the existing. So what is this AWS Lambda? Using this Lambda, we can compute the services. We can run code at a scale without worrying about the server. So we need not to worry about the server. So when we are when we want to write some program and store in the backend, again we need to think about where to store, what is the scaling we need to apply. All those things has to be discussed. Then with here, we need not to worry about the servers. We will simply write some code and we'll call that code or function which is stored in the Lambda. We don't know where it is stored. It will the AWS will look after its all scaling and everything. So if we write the functions which are the primary unit of Lambda, and we need not to worry about where it should be stored or anything. And we can simply call those functions in the which are stored in AWS Lambda. So which is useful for many applications like API hosting. We can write all our APIs in this Lambda, which can be very secure, and we can easily call the data. It is not stored in simple place. And for an event processing, for an ad hoc or a timer based jobs. Event processing means normally some applications are like, say we are ordering something. When when it is considered as order completed, whenever payment is done, it is should be considered as order completed. Then only in the inventory the count of the particular product should be decreased. So these are inter-process communication has to be done, which is in the event mode. That means first order is placed, order is confirmed, order is confirmed, and order is placed. Then first it should be added to the cart. Then it should be processed. Payment has to be done. Then order has to be given. Then after the order, then only from the inventory, the date, the count of the particular product has to be decreased. So this is a continuous process which is dependent on the events one after the other, right? So, uh, so that type of events functions can be written in the Lambda. So how do we do that? First, we'll create a function and we'll upload that code in the Lambda. It will ask which type of code it is. Then we'll write the which type of code it is. Then we'll store it and we'll run the function. As simple as that. Here, the main advantage in the Lambda is no servers. We are not storing in some place in file. We're simply writing directly function into the Lambda. So auto scaling is done. Performance is very high, and we based on how many times you are calling, for that only you'll be charged. Okay, you need not to worry about other things. And you can also easily integrate with the other services like database, EC2, or any type of services can be used. So with AWS Lambda, you can flexibility at the expense of control. Okay, so users of AWS Lambda is many people are there, like Netflix, where Autodesk, many things are using AWS Lambda. So Lambda is a compute service which is which uses the Amazon infrastructure. Here the code is considered in terms of the functions, and you need not to worry about the server management. Auto scaling always available, and it is auto scale. That means it can be decreased as well as increased, right? And which is stateless. Stateless means all it is if we are storing in a particular server, it is called as stateful. If we are storing, if we are not, we don't know where exactly it will be stored, and it is managed by this AWS that we call as stateless. Okay, all functions in the Lambda we considered as stateless, and we can also connect with S3 or DynamoDB or anything. So scaling is done by the Amazon. You need not to worry about configuring how it should be scaled. and it adapts based on the incoming request. Say if the function is API is called 1,000 times, based on that, it will scale up. If it is called for 1 lakh times, based on that, it will scale up. If it is being called only 2 to 3 times, it will scale down. So you need not to configure about the scaling. And it will mostly used for the triggers. It is an event based and event from the AWS services and for HTTP calls. And it is a serverless, but still they are on the servers only, right? So pricing, coming to pricing, free tier is also available for the Lambda for you, and it allows us 1 million requests and 3 million seconds of compute time. Okay, if you're not using, when if you're creating, if you're not using, there will be no cost. So how do we create this? First, we'll go to the console. We'll open the Lambda. Here you can see Lambda is there. Okay. Then we'll click on that Lambda, and Lambda will be displayed like this. So you'll be in the Lambda, what you have to write? You have to write everything in terms of the functions. Whatever code you want to execute, you'll be write in terms of the functions. So create a function. Okay. Then you'll be giving a function name. Say Python hello world. And here in the down, you have to write which language we have to use for that particular function. Okay, so that runtime also we have to tell what is the function name, then runtime. Then here we have chosen the runtime as Python 3.7. Then we can also give the permission who can use it, which roles can be given, which users can be given. Users in the sense, user is nothing but a person. It can be an application also. Then here simply we can write a function. Here you can see we are creating a Lambda handler, the function name, and we are taking the arguments as event and context. So we are returning the status code is equal to 200 and body is JSON dumps hello from the Lambda. So this is the simple function we have created, right? Initially what we are doing, first we'll open a service, we'll create a function, then we'll write a name, then we'll specify the runtime. Okay, and we'll go and write the code. Okay, then this function is created and we can call that function, and we can also test that by clicking on the test. Okay, that function we can call from anywhere. So when we call that, it will we can also create a test. We can create a test event and we can test it also, or from any other resource also we can call that function. Okay, so that's how we can manage and create a Lambda function. Okay, so when it is executed, it creates a status code and the output. Okay, so we can show when we are creating a text, we can see the output in the logs. So Lambda is widely used by the different companies when they want to use a stateless program which can be scaled automatically. And by default, the Lambda is the main advantage of the Lambda functions. It gives the free and very, the cost can be minimized. You want to write a backend server, backend code, which is having a very small code. For that also, you need to create a server and you need to store in the server. It may be EC2 or any Docker images, or it may be a EKS Elastic Kubernetes service. You have to create all those that you have to create, and you have to pay for it. Instead of that, the same code it can be written in the Lambda, and you can call, and you need not to maintain all the servers and everything. So stateless is very useful because you need not to worry about the scaling, servers management, pricing, and all. It say your APIs are called 1,000 times. For those 1,000 times only, it will be charged. Otherwise, it is not charged. Okay. So that's about this AWS Lambda and IAM.